Welcome back, Texas A&M fans. This is Jake McKeever and Marshall Ingram recapping the week in Texas A&M baseball. 2-3, or I guess was it 2-2 on the
2-2.
week? Played Houston and LSU. We'll get into that LSU series here in a bit, but we'll jump right into it. Um, Houston, it was at Houston. I think it was the last Tuesday midweek that was a road game. A&M won 5-1. They had three in the ninth. It was very, very close. Houston stranded 12 men on base. Um, very kind of quick game. A&M pitchers kind of danced out of trouble there.
Yeah.
Tab Tracy got the start in center field, and then Hunter Haas hit a home run. It wasn't inside the Parker, but that was pretty much the game. Lampkin pitched pretty good as the midweek starter. 4 innings, 3 runs, one of them earned. Um, and then Brad Rudis came in, got the win, going 2 1/3. But Josh Eknes for Houston was tremendous. He really kind of
Yeah.
kept A&M off the base pass throughout the game. And then in the ninth, like I said, Haas had the homer, Boast had the triple that scored Moss, and then Targash with the RBI single. Really not that much to kind of write home about for Houston. Really couldn't get much going in
Yeah.
at the plate and really struggled to kind of get runs in. Um, one kind of weird note about Houston, their starting center fielder was Ben Bianco, the former LSU product.
Huh.
He got pinch hit for there. I think it was actually relatively early. I want to say it was the fifth, and then his
Yeah.
backup was the one that ended up giving up the inside the park home run to
Yeah, it
Haas.
was.
It was
Yeah,
weird. Hunter
it
Haas
was.
now has 3 home runs on the year, and that is more than his career freshman, sophomore, and summers combined. So
Yeah.
I know it was inside the Parker, but still kind of great.
Hey, it still
I
counts,
think
and you'd like to see A&M kind of take over that game going into LSU, because Houston not great this year. They're not like the really good Houston teams that they've had in the past. I think they're 5-11 at the
mhm.
time when they played them. But Lampkin pitched good, but Houston's starter just really he studded it out. And then just late in the game, we get deep into their bullpen, and the Axe just take it over in the ninth.
Yeah, the weirdest thing about this one is they brought in Cade. I think it's Catelli. I know I'm going to butcher that,
Mhm.
but only faced one batter. That was their Friday starter, I think. So that was kind of an odd situation. Came
Yeah.
in, gave up the home run, I believe, and then
Mhm.
immediately exited. So it was a very strange sequence. And then we'll go ahead and jump into the Friday game for LSU, the Skeens game. LSU won 9-0. They got two in the first, two in the third, and then five in the ninth. Paul Skeens for LSU went 6 1/3, 4 hits, 0 runs. And Nathan Detmer also threw 6 innings, 6 hits, 4 runs. And I would say for Detmer, this almost feels like a B. Like this was a
Yeah.
tremendous LSU lineup. He pitched a lot better than he pitched against Louisville, and that's kind of been his thing as he's been up and down. And I think
Mhm.
4 runs on a Friday against somebody like LSU's lineup, I think you'll take that. It was a great position to win, and
Yeah,
uh,
absolutely. I mean, Skeens, if you're going up against Skeens, the best pitcher in the game right in college baseball right now, in order to give your team a win, you're gonna have to have the game of your life. I mean, you're gonna have to go, 6, 7, no runs, 1 run, like just have the game of your season, be able to compete against that. And so Denver, like you said, a B, but he wasn't great, he wasn't bad. He was all right
yeah,
and kept
and
him in
and
the
I think
game.
that I mean this is a tough matchup. I think
Hmm.
for anybody in the country because LSU,
Yeah,
like I said, has seen Skeens all year, so
yeah,
you better be on if you're a right-handed hitter.
yeah.
Really not that much from an A&M standpoint. Had a few at bats late, and I wouldn't say they let the game slip away because
Hmm.
I mean their bullpen the four. It's kind of weird. The 4-0 game felt not very close at all, and then 9-0. You can sit back and be like, well, the game was a little bit closer. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think you're going to win too many games when the 2, 3, 4 hitters all have multi hits,
Hmm.
and Tommy White obviously had 3 RBIs. Um,
Yeah.
some defensive notes: Jordan Thompson played center field, Kason Wells played right, Caden Kent played third. Again, no Warner, and then Gregson got an at bat, Bard
Hmm.
got an at bat, and then Max got an at bat there at the end as well. Obviously, Max drew a walk at the end, but again, the catcher race, I wouldn't say it's heating up because I don't think anybody's taken over the role, but
Yeah, it's interesting though.
yeah, no one's emerged out of that,
No.
and it's the complete opposite with the outfield. I mean, the outfield,
Exactly.
yeah,
Outfield's
I mean,
setting itself in, but in like last weekend we saw Gregson, kind of control behind the plate. And this weekend Bard kind of took over in game. He started games 2 and 3, and then also got time in game 1. And so it's like it was the Gregson show last week behind the plate. And this week it was Bard, and mixed in with Gregson and Coffer. But yeah, like no one's kind of emerged into that leading catcher role. So I'm interested to see what Slosh does in the next few weeks because the season's getting along, and you kind of want to see someone consistently back there in those big games.
yeah, worth a note too. This was Jace Lavalettes' first taste of SEC baseball. He
Mm-hmm.
went 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts again. He's gonna have some growing pains as a freshman.
Yeah.
Played great in the field, but again, the 2 strikeouts. I think that you'll come to expect that a lot from
Yeah.
him as he strikes out. Bose, the 10-game hitting streak snapped. He didn't have the best weekend against LSU, but again, I think he was hitting the ball hard and seeing it well.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Moving right along to Saturday, I called this one the Walk Fest. Very, very long game. 12-7 LSU won again. A&M was up 4-0 with 2 in the second, 2 in the third. LSU added 6 in the fourth. A&M got 1 back, and then 3 each in the sixth and seventh for LSU. A&M added 1. Odd game for Troy Wansing. 2 and
Yeah.
2/3, no hits, no runs, 6 walks, 4 strikeouts on 76 pitches.
Mm-hmm.
They ran his pitch count up. Evan Ashenbach came in, only had 1 inning of work, 2 runs, 3 hits, or 3 runs, 2 hits, 1 walk, 32 pitches. Dillard, 1 1/3, 4 runs, 3 hits. Braden Garcia kind of came in a little bit in mop-up duty, 2 innings, 3 runs, and then Brad Rudis with 2. On the LSU side, Ty Floyd, kind of a similar situation to Wansing with maybe a little bit more hitting. He was not very effective. 3 1/3, 68 pitches. Edwards, 3 1/3, 66 pitches. And then from there, Cooper and Money on the back end each had scoreless outings. Again, I'm not really one to ever complain about the umpires, but it was consistently bad on both sides. It seemed like there were times he was squeezing them. And as I'm sure Jordan Thompson will tell you on his 3 strikeouts, his zone opened up at times as well. So it was a weird game to kind of try and figure out where the zone was. But
Yeah.
ton of lefty pitching. Slosh mentioned that in the pressers that they kind of had that plan going in. Outside of Dylan Cruz, who's just mashed everything, White's a worse against lefties. Trey Morgan's worse against lefties. Jared Jones, I think, was hitting under 100 against lefties. So I think this is the one that Slosh really wanted. And again, Wansing going 2 and 2/3, not really an effective outcome.
Not help. And A&M, their offense did a great job of getting their bullpen early. Games 2 and 3. And they got to their bullpen in the first 4 innings, both games. But it's tough to stay in a game when game 2 they give 11 free bases. And so especially with the number 1 team in the country, that's tough to stay in it. I think in game 2, it was kind of evident that even early on when A&M was up 4-0, it was just a matter of time before LSU got back in the game because I mean from the get go, loading the bases, walks, like you could just see like I don't think they can keep this up and stay above LSU. They were just kind of floating, and it was a matter of time till they sunk.
Yeah, I mean, I did get that vibe as well that it was kind of not if, it was when. Worth noting, LSU left 15 men on base, which is almost a scary lineup. Kling, Morgan, and Cruz only had 1 hit between them. But Jared Jones had the game of his life. The Bear had 7 RBIs, including a shot, and he hit 2 balls, I believe, over 110. One of them was caught at short, but again, he was seeing the ball very well. Just kind of touching the lineup really quick. Kason Wells was in right field. Jordan Thompson in center. Bard got the start, got all 5 at bats. Was only 1 for 5. I wouldn't say he was very impressive behind the plates. Had a few wild pitches and pass balls as well. I'm not really sure if that was on him, but again,
I don't really know which
set
one to
himself
blame, the
off.
catcher or the pitchers, but yeah, I agree.
Really gloomy day, and honestly, I was a little bit surprised from Wansing. I thought that this was kind of going to be a game, being a Purdue guy, that he was going
Uh-huh.
to not really necessarily take over, but being in Purdue, these are just the games that you should be used to.
Hmm.
And again,
Yeah.
Schloss after this one, you could tell he wanted to win this one, then it got away. Um,
Yeah.
didn't really leave a very good taste. I think if we just took off the first game, we can say, okay, Skeens pitched another
Hmm.
otherworldly game. It was a lot closer than 9-0. This one, I would say, left a really bad taste in my mouth leaving the
Yeah.
stadium because, again,
Yeah.
it seemed like A&M ran out a ton of pitchers. I mean, other than
Hmm.
Dillard, like Wansing and Aschenbach, these are your two guys.
Yeah.
Sauce touched on in the presser that Aschenbach really didn't have that much on his fastball, and that was kind of the reason for the quick outing. So
Yeah.
that'll be interesting to see how Yeski goes with somebody like Aschenbach
Hmm.
because, that was his whole thing was the velocity in Minute Maid, and then now he's, 5 miles per hour less.
Yeah,
Wonder how
kind of
much he
getting
gets
dead arm a
used.
little bit. You could tell Schloss was when he took Ashen back out. He could tell Schloss was really frustrated.
Mhm.
Just like on camera when he was on the mound. But yeah, I mean, just that's the game that I really thought if they're going to win any this series, that's the game I thought they're
Mhm.
going to win because Schloss touched on it before the series that they were going to go lefty heavy in this game, um, and the lefties just didn't show out, and so
Mhm.
coming out like after this game, going into game three, I was like, I really just didn't know what to expect. And then with Cortez's quick outing, that the rest of the game really surprised me from there.
Yeah, and then we'll go ahead and jump into that one.
Mhm.
8-6. LSU had 4 in the first, another one in the second, and then one in the seventh. A&M had 1 in the first, 1 in the third, 2 in the fifth, and a big eighth inning with 4 runs. I know that Friday was the Skeens game. Saturday was the ump show. I think this one was the Stanley Tucker game.
Yeah.
Tab Tracy started, and then Stanley came in, got 3 at bats, including 2 hits. Obviously, he had the big one that scored the 2 at the end, and then also saved a run as well early. And you kind of touched on it. Chris Cortez, 1 1/3, 62 pitches, 4 runs, or 4 hits, 5 runs, 3 of them earned. Kind of a little asterisk there because the error was on him. 3 strikeouts, 4 walks, and then Justin Lampkin and Will Johnston. Um,
Hmm.
Lampkin had 4 1/3, 4 hits, 1 run. Will Johnston came in, had 1 hit, no runs. And then some LSU notes. Thatcher Hurd, 3 1/3, 4 hits, 2 runs on 74 pitches. Riley Cooper, um, 2 2/3, 2 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks. Chase Shores, 3 innings, 2 hits, 2 runs. Both of them earned 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. Christian Little, an inning. I promise I'm reading the lines as they are. 2 hits, 2 runs. Both of them earned 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. He blew the save. Um, so yeah, we'll go ahead and get into the reactions.
Hmm.
What'd you kind of see from Stanley Tucker? I know you've been very high on him as you played against him before.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was awesome. Get his chance, and he just shows out. I mean, King Tuck, man, he's like 2 for 2, 2 RBIs, and making the top play on Sports Center top 10. I mean, it's just awesome. I mean, I think he kind of uh, played himself into a role here in the coming weeks. I mean, with one of the biggest showings of the season so far out of any player on A&M, and so Tucker was awesome. Just really brings a lot of energy, and then Willie Johnston, man. This is what we've all been waiting for out of him. He's just been that guy that we thought was going to be the backbone out of the bullpen, and he's gotten the job done throughout the beginning of the year, but we haven't really seen him dominate like we've seen. And then he comes in and goes 3 scoreless, and I mean that 1 hit that was really awesome to see. And then Lampkin, of course, he was a stud for what 4 1/3, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, and Willie pitched really good, I think, against
Mhm.
Houston as well. And it was
Yeah.
kind of honestly, the Tuesday game ended up being the precursor to
Yeah.
Sunday. But again, we can talk all we want about Stanley Tucker. I think me and you were both kind of wondering not why he wasn't getting at bats, but
Yeah.
his bat's been, I think, good enough to get
Mhm.
him in the lineup. Um, underrated note: Hunter Haas played just about the game of his life and had
Yeah.
honestly one of the better weekends I think out of any A&M player. Um,
8 for
four
12 on the
for
weekend.
five,
I
four
mean,
for
that's
five.
unbelievable.
Yeah, four for five. I believe he stole about 3 or 4 Trey Morgan hits up the middle too, and kind of
Mhm.
cleared the slate from his 2 errors on Tuesday and played really effective baseball. And again, that's I think what they need out of him with
Yeah.
some of the bats, not necessarily missing, but the injuries that they've had. I
Yeah.
mean, you're going to win a lot of games when the guy that you expected to hit around 220 goes
Hmm.
4 for 5. And he ended up getting
Yeah.
that big run there at the end. And again, the stolen base, I think, is another underrated aspect of this too. Able to steal a run instead of being first and second. They basically
Yeah.
steal one off a little, get second and third, and the Haas
Hmm.
blooper from, and then Tommy throws it away. That,
Yeah.
and then Stanley Tucker on the ball in the gap that Haas hit. He got a great jump off of first and scored standing up and forced Dugas to really make a rush play. I think that was another really underrated play as well to show off his speed. But again, I would say that the pitching staff, that Lampkin and Johnston have kind of earned their way into, I would say Lampkin into the rotation and then Johnston to be
Yeah.
first out of the pen. Because, I mean, when you have 7 1/3 innings of 1 run ball between the two of you, I think that's the outing that Slosh wanted on Saturday.
Absolutely. I mean, and you've kind of been waiting for guys to step up out of the bullpen. Like Ashenbach, he's been good throughout the year, but you know that's one guy, and you're waiting on your stud Will Johnston to step up, and you're trying to fill those holes from the guys that left from last year, and then Justin Lampkin stepping up. That's huge for the team.
Yeah, and then the other thing too, speaking of the injuries, Trevor Warner got one at bat. He did strike out, but it was really good to see him. And I think that's going to be the question that Schloss is going to have to ask with Warner coming back, and then Minnick, I believe, in a couple of weeks,
Yeah,
is who do you play between Caden Kent, Tucker, Tracy, and Wells? Because all of them they've played good enough to be in the lineup, but none of them has really kind of set them apart except for Stanley with the one
yeah,
game. But it's almost that's almost the real one, is an embarrassment of riches, and we're going to see who's
yeah.
going to find themselves on the outside looking in with Thompson as well. I think he's kind of found himself on the chopping block with his
Hmm.
average and everything. But
Yeah, it's
again,
interesting to see. Like, what do you think? Do you think Tucker plays his way in there? You think Wells stays in there? Like, I'm curious.
I think, I mean, if it was me, I think Tuck Tuck has to play in the weekend. I think he
Yeah.
earned the right to play it in the weekend, and
Hmm.
barring him just going 0 for 4 strikeouts, I think he's your center fielder. And then I think when Warner comes back, you move Kent back to left and Lavalette to right. And I think Jordan
Yeah.
Thompson's your odd man out. And the second I think Lavalette or Wells kind of gets a little slow, you can slide Jordan Thompson right in.
Yeah.
But I think that's the one thing that no one really wants to mention is Lavalette really hasn't earned himself in this lineup.
He hasn't at all, and so everyone wants to just they're questioning what they're going to do with Minnick, Tucker, Wells, and Thompson. But Laviolette's a big question. I think it kind of gets blinded with the hype around him. But I mean, every other guy who's been playing has been playing better than Laviolette. And no, not dogging on him at all.
Yeah.
He's a great player, and he's only a freshman. He's got a bright future. But I mean, Wells, Tucker, and Thompson have definitely. I think they've earned their right over him.
And he started every single weekend.
Yeah.
After the first weekend, his average was at 400. Dipped below 200 with the Portland series, and then and Sunday had 3 hits. But I mean, since then, I mean, it's a ton of offers. He
A
had
lot of
2 hits against
strikeouts.
Tech and seven at bats, a hit against Rice. But on the weekend, he only had one hit. Let me see how many strikeouts he had. 5 strikeouts, average at 209. I mean, he's a freshman, so you can't really
Yeah,
dog him for doing that. But he's going to kind of struggle with this. But I would be very interested to see how Sloss plays it, because they
yeah.
have so many of these guys that, I mean, obviously they don't supply the power that Lavalette does, but Wells and
But Wells isn't
Tap. I mean,
striking out, Wells is
yeah,
at least putting the ball in play, and he's gonna score a run if there's a guy on third.
and Stanley Tucker after Sunday, I don't see how you take him out of the lineup. I mean, he has
I don't think you
an
can.
infectious personality. He plays
Mhm.
tremendous center field. He's really fast. That'll be the one that'll be. Honestly, I think right now the only position that's locked up is Haas as the
Yeah.
shortstop, and then some kind of platoon between Boast, Moss, and Targash
Targash,
in
yeah.
those three positions.
Mhm.
But I think everything else is pretty much open, and especially,
Yeah.
I mean, Sunday kind of makes you feel a little bit better, but at the end of the day, I mean, you drop 2 of 3 at home, and in the SEC,
Yeah.
you always have to win at home. So I think
Yeah, you
Schloss is
never wanna
gonna.
do that. Mhm.
I think that's the one good thing though, is they've had a couple guys that weren't on the list that have really, really stepped up, that have forced kind of Slosh to take a look at it, like Lampkin and Johnston and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see how people like Cortez and Wansing, how they respond to
Yeah.
probably getting shifted around and moving into new roles. Because every
Mhm.
single weekend from a pitching standpoint, we've seen Detmer, we've seen Wansing, and we've seen Cortez. And I think Ditmer is going to stay as a Friday. I mean,
Mhm.
he's been the Friday. He was all the Friday every day last year, and I think he'll stay there. I think Haas, the platoon of Boast, Moss, and Targosh, and then Detmer, and then I think everything else, Schloss
Kind
is
of up
going
in
to
the air.
have to take a good hard look to kind of see, because I mean, here's the other thing too. As a fan, it's really hard to tell the difference between Caden Kent, Cason Wells, and Tab Tracy. I think they all kind of play the
Yeah.
game similarly. I mean, the only
Yeah.
one that really
Tracy's
kind of,
another guy.
yeah,
Hmm.
Tracy's another one, and I think the only one that really stands out there is Lavalette because he's so big and obviously has the power. But I think the other four guys, at times, that they've been really streaky and they've gotten on base. I mean, granted they're hitting singles, and I'm sure their slugging percentages aren't high, but I think those guys kind of warrant getting in the lineup.
Yeah, 100%. And with the pitching aspect, I think Lansing stays. I think he's had enough good starts this year to where he's kind of solidified himself in that game two role. But I think Cortez, if I think from my opinion, if Shaw's going to make a change anywhere in the rotation, I think it's going to be Cortez. I mean, it's been a few bad weeks in a row for him, and I could really see Lampkin switching into that game three starter.
I could see Lampkin in a Saturday role and then Wansing in
Yeah,
the Sunday,
move him
and
over to three. Yeah,
and I could see Cortez being the first guy out of the bullpen Friday or
yeah,
Saturday, just because he throws so hard. I
hmm
think that, I mean, obviously Sloss sees these guys 100 times more than us, and we're
yeah.
just armchair coaches. But he really has been at times very effective, and I think in short
No, he
bursts.
has.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think if Lampkin gets shelled either Tuesday or Sunday, I don't think Cortez gets bumped out of there. But again,
Hmm.
I think that Lampkin's kind of earned it. We'll get very, very quickly into the Tuesday game because we've already previewed Rice now twice. Playing
Yeah,
Rice at home. I'm not really sure what Rice has done since we last saw them. I assumed it's more shitty
more
baseball,
of
if
the
I'm being
same.
honest with you.
Yeah.
Let's see who they played. Rice baseball. Um, so since we last played Rice, which by the way, this one will be at home. It won't be at Reichling, which is very, very
It's
underrated ballpark, but very, very glad to kind of have all of
yeah.
our midweeks back. They sit at
They
11
they,
and 9.
swept UAB.
Yep, they swept UAB. They lost to Baylor on Tuesday, but
Yep.
again, just like it's very, very hard to sweep in a weekend series, I think it's almost harder because they've beat them twice. And I mean, Rice did beat Texas Tech, and they played Stanford really close. So I think that they
Mhm.
are obviously a step
Not a bad
below
team at all,
LSU. But no, I
but
think
yeah.
that this is not a trap game, but again, Tennessee I think is going to be the beast. Um,
Mhm.
from a pitching standpoint, I wonder who we'll see, because I don't think we'll see Lampkin because that's
I
who
don't think
pitched
so
last
either.
week. Um, Probably Rudis if I had to guess. I'm not really sure
Yeah.
how good he is as a starter. Hogan. Um, Hopefully
Uh,
we don't see Dillard, but I could see Dillard sliding in
getting
that
some work
role.
in there, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he only threw 13 pitches on Saturday, and he's he's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Senior guy, kind of battled his way into the rotation, but again, he has not been effective really at all this season with the plus 15 ERA.
Yeah.
Um, we'll jump into the obviously the big one, Tennessee going to Lindsey Nelson. Um, Tennessee currently 0-3 in SEC play, 0-5, I believe, against Power 5 teams. Um, if you consider Grand Canyon a power team as they are ranked now. Um, and then they played Missouri over the weekend. I'll pull up their scores here.
They
But
got swept by Missouri. Oh, no, they got swept by Missouri.
they did get swept, but it was at, I
Mhm.
mean, it was at Missouri, so I'll cut them a little slack there.
Well, and Missouri's not they're not the bottom of the SEC team that they have been in the past. I mean, I think they're sitting at 16-3 right now.
And I think they beat TCU and
Uh-huh.
Texas, and
And
I think
played
Texas
OSU
obviously
really
they haven't
close.
played they haven't played anybody good, but they've quietly rolled off 10 in a row.
Yeah.
Let me see. Pull their stats. They lost all three. They lost 9-1, 7-4, and 7-1. So I guess they got to Shores early in that game. But I think this is a very, very different Tennessee team. But at the same time, I think that they're still effective. I know that this time last week, I think that everybody still kind of picked to win the SEC East. And again, I think this is going to be a series. I know that it's the second week and Tennessee doesn't need wins, but I don't think you can sit at 1-5 after Tennessee last year, especially with how good Florida and South Carolina are, and feel really good as a Tennessee fan. So I think that's going to be the challenge for A&M as they kind of try and figure it out. I don't think Tennessee's really the best team at Lindsey Nelson to try and figure it out against.
Yeah, it's really not. Yeah, in Knoxville, it's a tough place to play, and then Tennessee's going to come out with a lot of energy. I know Vitelli, he's not going to put up with the sweep very long, and so they're going to come out guns blazing, trying to put it on them. But I really just don't think that this. I think they're really good. It's still Tennessee, but I think it's no LSU at all.
Yeah. Some notes: Christian Moore hitting 344, Blake Burnett 342, Griffin Merritt the transfer 302, Jarrett Dickey batting 289. From a pitching standpoint, they still have Burns, they still have Dollander, even though they haven't been as effective. Both of them still are having hitters hit below 250, and Burns and Dollander are not a very good recipe when Schloss talks about how they have a lot of guys that aren't ready to hit the fastball. I think this is either going to be a show out and get better type series, or A&M is going to find themselves going scoreless again.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. I really don't know what to expect from Tennessee, especially after last weekend. But I think whatever slot, it really just comes down to if Detmer has a good start and sets the tone for the weekend. If Detmer comes out, has a good start, and then whoever we see, Wansing, Cortez, or Lampkin, whichever those guys, if they can come out and just get it done in games 1 and 2, and just give them a good start on the mound, that'll put them in a great position.
I think if we can get 6 out of Detmer, and then I'm gonna say Lampkin on Saturday. I think if we get 4 out of him, we'll be good. And then Wansing, 4 or 5 again. I think we'll be in a very, very good position because this isn't the Tennessee lineup of last year. I think that their strength is still a pitching staff. I think these are going to be very, very ugly games. From a hitting standpoint, I could see 3-2, 4-2, but it's kind of a little strange that the quote unquote murderers row of LSU, Tennessee, Ole Miss is now looking a little bit different, and now Kentucky, Arkansas, Florida is kind of looking like the murderers row again. But we're running out of time here. What's your prediction on the week?
So with the Rice game, I say they go 3-1. I say they take 2 from Tennessee. I say they're going to take games 1 and game 3.
So you think we get a good start out of Detmer?
I think we get a good start out of Detmer.
I'm going to say we lose the Rice game because I could very easily see Schloss not necessarily punting it, but
kind of experimenting a little bit.
Experimenting a little bit because, I mean, obviously Lampkin's not going to – I really hope he doesn't pitch the Tuesday game. So it'll be kind of a bullpen, like a hodgepodge of people that are going to be on not short rest because they pitched over the weekend and not pitched very much, but it's going to be kind of a hodgepodge as they kind of figure out the lineup. And then Tennessee, I think Detmer, I kind of like the Detmer prediction where he comes out and be a little bit more effective. I don't think we have the hitting though to win on a Friday night, so I think we do Saturday, Sunday. I think we win one of those 2 games.
2-2.
I'd be very happy if we went 1-2 against Tennessee on the weekend, and I think that'd be
Knoxville.
Great. Yep, I think that'd be a win. I think if we score over 5 runs from a lineup standpoint, I'll be really, really impressed because that's the one thing that worries me from a lineup standpoint is I could very easily see us averaging below 5 runs.
Yeah. I think I really where I think where they're really gonna have an edge is I think they're just gonna have an edge after game 3 against LSU. You know, giving LSU, giving number 1 team their second loss of the
Mhm.
season, and then I think Tennessee is gonna kinda. Yeah, I said Vitell is not going to put up with the sweep very long, but I think they're kind of have their heads in the dirt a little bit after getting swept by Missouri, and so that's really
Yeah,
where
and
I
then you
think
blink
A&M has an
and
edge.
have the SEC West defending champs coming
Yeah,
in. But again, I
hmm
think Tennessee is a really, really talented ball club. I mean, I had
I
them
do
in my
too.
top
Yeah,
5 before this week, but
hmm
I it'll be really interesting because I don't think Tennessee sits at let me pull their record just so I'm
leave 15-6.
speculating. They sit at 15-6, and again they have 5 actually yeah, um 4 of their let's see 1 2 3 4 yeah, 5 of their 6 losses are against power conference teams, and then the lone outlier has been Grand Canyon, who's also ranked. But again, Alabama A&M, Dayton, Charleston Southern, the shell of Gonzaga, Morehead State, and
Hmm,
Lipscomb is not exactly a murderer's row. And then
no,
obviously getting their teeth kicked in by Missouri. But I think that this Tennessee team's going to have something to prove, and A&M's going to again have to be on their game like they were
yeah,
Sunday and play their brand of baseball of you know I always call it ugly baseball. Ton of walks, ton of great at bats,
yeah,
fielding and making every play, but not making the diving play. I think that's Adams'
hmm
brand of baseball, and if they play that, I think they'll be really effective.
yeah, I do too. And then hopefully Tucker gets his chance and he can kind of bring some more energy to the team. I mean, that's really what I'm hoping for this week is for him to
I'm
break out a
excited
little
to see
bit.
it too because I
Yeah,
think
I
that
am too.
the other weird thing about Stanley is I think he's been involved with the 2 weirdest plays on A&M's season. Um, obviously the play where he slid past third base with Tommy White.
Gets pushed off the bag and gets called out. Yeah.
So actually, Sloss clarified in the presser that the ump said that he didn't get pushed off, so that's when they reviewed it. They couldn't review that he was pushed off. But
Mm.
and then the other play is going back to Minute Maid when he dropped the bat on the steal and they got called out. That was another kind of
Yeah.
head scratching
Yeah.
play. So the 2 most head scratching plays Stanley Tucker's been involved in. But it'll be good. I think that my other bold prediction here before we get into it, um, before we go, I mean, other bold prediction. I think one of these catchers stands out, whether it be Max,
Mhm.
Gregson, or Bard. Um, I think one of them kind of show out and get a multi-hit game, and I don't think any of the 3 have had a multi-hit game
I
this
don't
year.
think so either. And that's really just something I'm waiting for. I would love for that to happen. I really want to see a solidified, starter number 1 catcher role on this team rather than, shuffling through every other game. But yeah, and so off that, I say Hank Bard
Hank
has a
Bard, you're
breakout
gonna go with
week.
Bard.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Bard.
Well, I think that's all we have time for. Want to thank our sponsors, Home Field Apparel. Use code CBC15, get 15% off all your A&M gear. They got a ton of stuff with Reveille on there. We're going to be back next week breaking down the Tennessee series and then also looking ahead against Texas and Ole Miss. Be sure to follow our Twitter as well as our webpage. But again, this has been Jake McKeever and Marshall. See y'all later. Thanks and gig 'em.
See you guys.